Welcome everybody to this webinar, this question and answers webinar following, well, it's the end of 2024 now. It's been an incredible year for airline selections. And there's also been, in the last few weeks, some videos that you probably have seen if you're here that were recorded with Captain Joe. So this is just the beginning of a series that will lead to more and more things in 2025 as we look to equip you with more solutions to succeed with your selections. As you know, and this is something I discuss everywhere I go, flight schools can only take you this far, and their mandate is to get you a license, really. And the regulator has not specified anything that you need to have before you then attend the next exam that's the most important in your life, which is your airline selection. So a lot of candidates have historically gone relatively unprepared. It's a big problem because, of course, if you have dreamt to become a pilot ever since you were a child and are attending as an ab initio, and you put a lot of hope into maybe the only one or two airline selections you can attend as an ab initio and you fall short, it's a huge heartbreak. And likewise, if you spent a lot of money and effort and you've dedicated yourself to the path of becoming a pilot at the expense of maybe doing something else at university, failing in front of your first selection, your first door, so to say, is really something very traumatizing. And all you need really to succeed is a little push, a little bit more perspective, an additional level of training really on not just recruitment, but also airline operations and what is expected of the airline from a candidate. This gap training goes from writing a CV to understanding the recruitment exercise from an interview perspective to also becoming a lot better if you're a license holder in the simulator, something that flight schools don't really teach you because they teach you to fly a single engine and then a twin. And then the time you spend at MCC is very limited, 10 sessions if you do an APS, and it's not focused on the recruitment exercise. To fly the sim properly in a recruitment environment takes a different set of skills that they don't have time to teach you at the MCC, even if they have very good instructors. Okay, so this gap training is really something that you need, and that I hope that more and more people will understand that they need. When I was in your seat, I needed some gap training. When I got out of flight school, I felt that something was missing, and I went to see an instructor who had a Beechcraft 200 simulator in order to be prepared. And that's actually a lot of what you guys will instinctively do when you have a selection planned. You will try and find a friend who's got a sim. You'll try and go to a facility that has a sim with instructors that will teach you. But the thing is, you see, everyone will do it their way, and having a structured method that works and that is proven, that's what will really make the difference. And actually, when I did mine, the instructor who taught me, he was specializing in this, and he was very good, and I never failed a sim selection in my life, thanks to what he taught me and what I later continued to cultivate in the sim. Okay, so let's go into our little presentation, and of course this is a question and answer session, so you will have the opportunity to ask your questions. That's the whole point of it. But first I'll start with a little PowerPoint. So preparing for airline selections, that's the theme of this Q&A today. And first of all, who am I? If you don't know me yet, well, my name is Guillaume Debauchez. I am the CEO of Airline Selection Programme. I'm also the CEO of Pilot 360, which is a software company that is creating psychometric tests, similar tests to the ones that you will have at your airline, or maybe if you enter a flight school, and maybe you will actually be subject to Pilot 360. So I'm the CEO of both companies, and I was a major airline recruiter. I'm an ex-British Airways 320 and a 777 pilot. I was still a co-pilot when I left, and then I left to go to Emirates, where I became a captain after 4 years. And I was also part of the recruitment team, which I was fairly early on as a co-pilot. And what I found when I was in this incredible recruitment team at Emirates was that there was a lot of things that candidates really would benefit from knowing without it compromising the quality of the recruitment. In fact, it would probably improve it. And this is why I created the Airline Selection Programme. Because I feel that things have to change. A lot of things still have to change. So let me just move my little presentation along. All right. So This is something that you will have heard me discuss when with Captain Joe, is that we have three categories of candidates. The first category is and rest assured, first of all, that you will have the opportunity to ask your questions, and not at the end of the presentation. I'm going to run these categories of candidates, and then that's it. You'll ask your questions for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then I'll show you a little bit more about how we work and what we do. And then at the end, you'll have, again, the ability to ask your questions. But I just wanted to set the scene here so that you understand how important this is. We have three categories of candidates. The first 25%, they will typically always pass. And it's interesting because some of you have commented in the Captain Joe videos that, oh, well, Joey didn't seem to he seemed to be discovering some of what Guillaume was saying. And to some extent, it's kind of normal because he has it in him to pass an airline selection. He's relatable and he works hard and he does all the right things, so to say. So he's in these 25% who almost always pass. He instinctively does what I was basically teaching. And he understands what to say and what not to say. At least that's what I expect that happened during his selection, okay? And that's the 25%. And they typically are smart, of course, but you will see that a vast majority of those who engage on a pilot career are smart enough to be a pilot for sure. You don't need to be an incredible civil engineer able to build rockets to be an airline pilot. You need a different set of skills. You need intelligence, sure, pure intelligence, but also emotional intelligence. 25% of them will pass. They will be smart, but they will also understand instinctively how to present themselves during a recruitment exercise. Okay, they will know, for instance, how to put their best foot forward, and they will instinctively know what to hold back and what not to say. This is not something that is natural to most people. And that's why we have the group afterwards, which are the 50% that we help the most. And 50% will pass on a good day. If the airline's recruiting a lot at the moment and the threshold for passing is a little bit easier on the pilots that are sitting the selection that month or that week, if they are being asked the questions they expected, if they work the right topics, if the group exercise is not too difficult, those ones will pass. And then we have the other 25% who will almost always struggle because basically maybe it's a little bit more difficult for them. Maybe the group exercise is a little bit difficult for them. Maybe they're a bit slower than the others, maybe, okay? But if you look at it this way, understand that historically and typically and statistically, only 25% of applicants actually succeed a major airline selection, leaving 75% on the side, when actually my experience is that the 25% and the 50%, they are perfectly fit to be in a cockpit and they will perform in the exact same way. The 25%, they instinctively know what the recruiter expects. They are just as smart as the other 50%, but those ones don't know really how to present themselves in an articulate way. They're not convincing enough and they maybe volunteer too many shortcomings. They don't know how to sell themselves. But if you would sit them on the right of any captain, they would perform just as good a job. The problem is you don't know in which quadrant you are. You don't know if you are in the ones that will always pass or in the ones that will pass only on a good day. And the difference in your career is huge. I mean, if you fail a selection that you should have passed, it's a major blow for you, but it's also a huge blow on just about everything that you will set to achieve. Just give me a second here. Give me a sec. There's a bit of spam in the room. Okay. It will hurt you financially quite a lot as well, because opportunities don't come all that often, and that's a salary that's lost, that's seniority that's lost, confidence that's lost, happiness that is lost, really. So we're here to help you improve your chances significantly, whichever group you are. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. And now I'm going to take some questions. And after that, well, I'm going to show you a little bit about what we do. And for those of you who are not yet on our courses, there will be an opportunity for you to take a look and see if maybe this could be for you. All right, so let me now take a look at your questions. So please come in with your questions and I'll do my best to answer them. So you would ask the questions, please remain muted, please. It's very difficult otherwise because we have a pretty big room today. Actually, it's not that many today. I don't know if the room was closed, but anyway, please feel free to ask me your questions in the chat. All right, so right now I don't see any questions. I will wait a little bit and then I will just continue to run my presentation. Okay, that's it. I've got a question. When preparing for the interview, especially for competency-based questions, how do you know if your example is good enough? Well, the recruiter will start by asking you, normally during the, when they start the interview, they will tell you how they want you to present your examples. I, for instance, tend to tell people that they should bring me with them on a flight or in a situation that happened. And if it's a flight, I like to know where they took off from, where they were going. I want to know the airport names, and I'd like to know the phase of flight, what happened, what was the outcome, and what part they took. I specify that I want to know what they did and not just what the team did, because I'm recruiting them and not the team. So I set the stage. Be very careful when recruiters give you instructions like that. If I tell you that and I spend time telling you that at the beginning of the interview, I would rather not have to repeat it and interrupt you every time that you give me an example. Okay, so I like people to tell me, I was operating from Paris to Berlin, and I was the situation happened already during pre-flight, and it continued, and then we had a bigger issue in the cruise. Okay, now they're complying with what I've asked. So your example is good enough. I would say, first of all, it has to be fairly recent. If it was linked to a mistake, because if they ask you for a mistake, you have to be able to give them a mistake that you made. Let's remember, we do not volunteer shortcomings, but we give them shortcomings if they ask them, right? Because if they tell you, tell us a time where you've made a mistake, and you tell them, I've never made a mistake, it's not realistic. But let's say that they just want to know a flight that was particularly tricky, then you need to give them a flight that was tricky. You need to show them that you performed really well. Ideally, in this case, there would be very little shortcomings or none at all. You need to make sure that your example has no holes that, for instance, I had candidates give me really good examples, but they made one massive mistake inside the resolution of the difficult situation where they, for instance, broke an SOP, which they really, given my experience, should not have broken. And then I'm thinking, wow, okay, so in order to achieve this result, they didn't even question themselves whether they were going to break this SOP or not. This to me makes this example invalid, even if everything else was fine. I give you an example. I had this candidate who told me that I asked them a time where they didn't, where they decided not to follow SOP, actually. So they told me, well, we were late and it was the last flight of the day, and we were limited by flight time limitations. And if we didn't take off, now we were going to have to remain, and I think they had to remain somewhere like in North Africa, and they decided, and there was a runway change. A runway change takes 10 to 15 minutes to organize. You need to recompute a lot of stuff. Plus, you need to taxi to the other side of the airport if you were already close to being aligned. And that's what happened. And so the runway changed because of a tailwind. And this tailwind component was 15 knots, which at the time was exceeding what the Airbus could take. It's changed since. And so he decided to convince ATC to change the runway again and to take off with more tailwind than the aircraft could take. And because it was flat, there was no performance issue that he could foresee. So he took it on him to do that. This was an invalid example because nothing, in my mind, warrants to break an SOP like this if you're not even airborne. So, I mean, he could have returned to the stand and gone, okay, we've run out of flight time limitations. Or he could have said, okay, we can't go all the way to Paris. Maybe we're landing in Marseille so that we don't break the extension we had on the flight time limitation. So this was an example that was not great. Another one was that this candidate had done a really good job. They had someone who basically they got a call from the company and they asked them to return to home base because there was a passenger who was deemed as a threat. The passenger was, they got told that the passenger was actually not going to be a threat on the flight, but if they brought them to destination, it was a problem. So this candidate did a really, really great job as a captain, organizing all this, discussing with the cabin crew, making sure everything was really perfect, but he didn't monitor his fuel properly. And I went straight into asking for the fuel situation. And in fact, he didn't really look at it close enough. And in the end, he went like, it'll be fine. We're likely to land still with a reserve, provided we get all the shortcuts, provided this, provided that. And I'm like, well, did you discuss it? He said, no, it seemed to be fine. And that was a problem to me, because in order to achieve a goal, he sacrificed on another without even discussing it. You see what I mean? I hope this is helpful. So make sure that your example is wholesome from A to Z. Okay, good. Hope I answered this one. It was a bit long. I hope I answered it properly. What's the best way to research the company you're applying to, except their website? Okay, Nicolas, so for this, you would need to, I really invite you to come on advanced interview course, because we teach you exactly how to do this with a set technique. And it would start from, so the website is very limited. These days on websites, you can only find, get cheap flights or book your flight. Just take a look at any airline, they are just trying to sell. So sometimes on the website at the bottom, there is about us, and you can find lots of articles. So you would be, you can, on most of these airlines, have corporate websites, which are open to shareholders. And I suggested you go and take a look at that. And then you have to download and get all their financial reports and analyze those reports. This is what we teach you in advanced interview course, so that you don't spend hours on it. You need to basically analyze any information that you've put out on the internet that could that is useful, that presents them as a company. What's good for a shareholder is good for you as a pilot. You also need to get into an airline knowing what's going on, and it shows that you are motivated. So website, Wikipedia, corporate website, and then you can also go on LinkedIn, and you need to really know what information they are conveying at the moment. And if you want, again, a proven method, we're here to help you with that. We're actually very strong with that. Okay, how is it possible that there is such a mismatch between the output of flight schools and the requirements of the airlines? It's very simple. It's very simple. The regulator never regulated it. Gap training doesn't really exist. It's not required. So what's required, though, is that you have an instrument, a CPL, an instrument rating, and an MCC, and English proficiency. It's not required that you are good at your airline selections. It's not required that you know the airlines well. Not required. But it's not just a way for you to succeed at your selections. It's also a way to enable a much better understanding earlier on of what the airline is expecting, and it will make it a lot easier on the airlines to bring you in. I was invited at a talk not long ago, at a discussion of experts. It was at a major airline headquarters, and they were actively discussing this and wanting to lobby on the regulator to do something about this. The MCC has, initially was MCC JOC, and then it became, the APS became an option, and this also got regulated. And then in EASA, there was also the, what's it called, the 100 KSA, which was an attempt by the regulator to achieve this gap training. but this attempt fell short because it's not easy for a flight school. And honestly, I'm not complaining about flight schools, not at all. I'm just saying because there's no regulatory requirement, well, these flight schools just do what they're mandated for. And a lot of applicants think that the flight schools are there to get them a job. This is wrong. Their job is to get you a license. And many of them will market that they will get you a job. Some of them have ties with airlines. That's great. But a lot of them don't. And a lot of the job to get you to, a lot of the work for you to get a job falls on you, really. It's your responsibility. And a lot of applicants don't understand that. And then they arrive at the selection and wonder, a few months before the selection, they wonder how to go about it, and they start to get sweaty palms. And some of them will perform, the 25%, but the others will fail, and they will wonder why. And if you wonder why as well, it's even worse because you don't know what to work on, which is why the gap training is so important. So at least if you would fail, because it does happen, you would know what to work on. And believe me, this hasn't changed in 20 years. Gap training has been needed ever since low-cost airlines arrived. Before that, it was not so much required because a lot of the people who would join airlines were coming from ab initio programs run by the state, or they would be transitioning from military. Fewer people paid for their training, a lot fewer, a lot less, fewer people were paying for their training. When low-cost airlines arrived, they then first started, recruiting people who already had the type rating, which would put the burden of the type rating on the candidates. And then more and more people started to go into this career and to fund it themselves. So it's been 20 years, 25 years, it's like that, actually. Okay, another question. I look at the time, yeah. What specific things does the SSO want to see in a candidate for a cadet integrated program at Wizz Air? Well, the candidate wants to see, I'm going to give you the short answer, because to get a full long answer, you need to get into our courses. That's what they're designed to achieve. But a short answer is they want to see someone who is smart but manageable. So they want to see someone who is intelligent but also emotionally intelligent. If you are a younger sort of person that's starting in life, maybe in your late teens or in your early 20s, they want to see a young person who is very mature already, more mature than their age would suggest, because that's impressive. And that's the sort of youngster that one wants to encourage and give a chance to. And if you are maybe reconverting from a previous career, and maybe you're in the second part of your full career, you want to see someone who is experienced, but who is very humble, someone who doesn't think that their experience makes them special. Because that to the recruiter means that we are going to have a problem on the flight deck, maybe, that they are going to reject the authority of the captain sooner rather than later, become resistant to training. So we want in any case to see someone who is teachable. But there's a lot more to it, because there are competencies that the recruiters are evaluating that are usually on a list, and this list is what we tell you about. You can see we've got some other YouTube videos that you can take a look at that will give you a really good idea of what these are. But if you want a full system that will teach you how to really understand this, so that you can understand the person in front of you, and that you can get that job that you want, that's going to finally secure your financial future and get you on that seniority list, then I suggest that you get onto, in particular, advanced interview course. I hope that I gave you enough clues here. If not, you can ask your question again with a bit more precision, and I will try and answer. Okay, so I'm going to read the question because it's a bit long. I have already passed 2 or 3 steps of an airline selection process, and I'm scheduled for the 3rd and final one in 2 weeks. Well done. In the invitation email briefing I received from the airline, it mentioned a group interview, a conflict exercise, and a personal interview. Okay. Do you have any feedback about this conflict exercise specifically? I find nothing online and there are no guidelines. Okay. I would really like that you would come on Discord on that. We have a Discord channel on that airline specific channel because you might have information on that. Now, a conflict exercise, it's the first time I hear about this. A group interview, you know what that is. A conflict exercise could be that they put you in a scenario where there is a conflict. It's very strange. You could ask them what this is about. I've had scenarios where you would ask people to make presentations. Air France is like that. I've seen scenarios where a lot of scenarios involve you being in a certain scenario and trying to solve a problem, some of them being more complex than others, where things can change and rules can change in the middle of the exercise. A conflict, they could put you in the situation of convincing someone to do something and someone who doesn't want to do something, and to see how you go about convincing them. Honestly, I'm not going to try and invent much more because it's the first time I see this. So this is not very common, to be honest. I would be curious to know which airline this is. If you wouldn't mind mentioning that, that would be great, actually. Do you have any recommendations for the group exercise? Yes. So for the group exercise, you're going to want to, again, it's all in the courses, but the idea here is to give you some really actionable tips, as much as we can do in the short time we have on this video. At the group exercise, a lot of people get it wrong because they think that they need to be the overwhelming leader. Doing this will probably get you to fail for a lack of emotional intelligence. You want to be, and lack of CRM as well, you want to be both able to lead and able to follow, which is actually what we do on the flight deck when you think about it. When you're pilot flying, you tend to lead your flight. And when you're pilot monitoring, even if you're the captain, you tend to follow what the other pilot is doing. And if at some point you are disagreeing with what the other one is doing, you need to be able to influence and lead your point of view to a good resolution. So in the group interview, you want to lead at times and you want to follow at others and be constructive always. I hope this answers your question. Okay, I didn't know about the Discord channel. Oh yeah, okay. I see. I don't want to put you in a position where okay, thank you very much for putting in the Discord link here. Yes, you can join there, and then you can put it inside the you can go inside Discord into the relevant channel. This Discord is really useful. Now, I think this is just what they mean is just a group exercise, to be honest. I'm curious to know what this is. Okay, now we're going to go into a presentation. So if you're already on our courses, you probably know what I'm going to talk about. If not, just this will give you an idea. Because in the Captain Joe videos, if you've just been on the, you've seen the Captain Joe videos, I don't go into too much depth on the solution. That's the whole point of this webinar today, as well as answering your questions. Okay, so back on this now. Right, so we have some main courses, and I'm going to want to shift my face to the left. Okay, so we have some main courses. These courses are what you will see are part of what we call the foundation. So the first one is Advanced Interview course, which will help you understand what's going on in a recruitment environment, how the recruiter is thinking. And it's a foundational course. It's a big course that really goes into detail. It contains 8 modules going from understanding the recruiter, the key competencies, researching the airline. It's got a big module on operational thinking, operational procedures, and what challenges pilots face on a day-to-day basis. So if you're an ab initio, you will really, really step ahead of others by having a much better understanding of what the pilot job entails, which will make it very, very convincing. And then there's a section on group interviews, difficult questions, and advanced interview course also includes a personality questionnaire, which will make a big difference to you. So that's the advanced interview course. Now there's CV and cover letter course. It's a course that is often people find out a bit late how important this course is. You need to have a good CV, and I'll go into it in more detail in a minute. Then there is the sim preparation course, which is an e-learning course to teach you how to perform in the sim for the purpose of airline selections. It's a very important course, this one as well, and we are launching very soon now a sim preparation package, which will include 5 hours of simulator in Paris that will be completely compatible with a sim preparation course. So if you're interested in that, let us know. And then we have English proficiency course, which will help you achieve an excellent performance, a better performance than the one that you would have otherwise with your FCL 055, which is mandatory to have if you are to fly on instruments. And so as an airline pilot, you have to have it. Right, so let's move on to the next slide. So these are our main courses, our foundational courses, so to say. And yeah, so advanced interview course, yeah, I already told you what was inside, but typically this really is our signature course. It talks about the recruiter, how to do your research, the mindset, the psychometrics, operational challenges, exactly what I mentioned before. And just to be clear, we have airline-specific courses for 4 airlines at the moment. We'll have many more during the year, but advanced interview course is enough on its own. So if you're going for an airline that we don't have a specific course for, like Qatar Airways, Cathay Pacific, any airline, okay, American Airlines, United Airlines, any airline, Lufthansa Group, EasyJet, this course will work on its own and be sufficient, because the only thing that you need to expand on to prepare for an airline specifically is the module 2, which is knowing how to research a specific airline. But understand that airlines go about selections in a slightly different way. Each of them do it in a slightly different way, but they're all looking for the same foundational behaviors. They want sound behaviors from a pilot, and that's why you need this course. That's why this course is absolutely needed, because once you've sat it, you'll be able to answer just about any question that you're being asked. And if you would study just specifically on one airline and trying to find out maybe what questions your friends had, well, what happens if you get a question that comes out of that frame? And you get a personality questionnaire that will help you understand have exactly the same tools as the recruiter. Before you enter the room, you already know what they are seeing, and so you're able to prepare the questions that are the most difficult. The most difficult questions are always the ones that come from a personality questionnaire. Okay, so that's advanced interview course. If you are to take only one course, take this one. And the CV and cover letter course I was telling you is important as well, because you want to have a clean CV and a powerful cover letter. So you need to be able to write for the recruiter. You need to, your letter has to be fairly short. It needs to include the right amount of research and show that you have a good understanding of the job, even if you're an ab initio pilot, okay? So this course includes templates for cadets, experienced, and military pilots. And don't underestimate this course. At some airlines, you cannot change your CV and cover letter, so 30 days or 60 days before the event, so you really want to take this course first. The point of the letter is to get you invited, okay? So a lot of people misunderstand the point of the letter. They think that if I write a big letter, it's going to show that this volume is going to impress them. No, this volume is going to exasperate them. You need a professional letter that is short and that gets them curious and and lets them think as well that there's not going to be a communication issue with you. If your letter is mega long, there could be a communication issue with you, and it's going to set you on the back foot. Right. Now, the sim preparation course I was telling you is an important course. So if you've got a sim coming, really consider this course. It will teach you the 5 key pitch settings that you absolutely must know to transition from one configuration to another on the 320 and the 737. The relationship between the pitch, the speed, and the vertical speed. Energy management, which is the one area that you cannot learn at flight school properly, and that this creates more problems in the sim than anything else. because people arrive too fast, too much energy, and then they make a cascade of mistakes that get them to fail. There are many more modules. For the sake of not getting this presentation to be too long, I'll show you where you can get more information about the sim preparation course. And then there's the English proficiency course, which will be also a strong foundation for your selection, because English is the #1 reason why people fail airline selections unless they're an English-speaking native. Why? It's because it's the base language, it's the vector of communication. If communication fails, then your whole selection will suffer. How to know if you're good enough in English? Well, if you are translating in your head when you're speaking, your English is not good enough. More than likely not good enough. Okay, so that's all of our main courses are here. You can see in this yellow frame: advanced interview course, sim preparation course, and CV and cover letter course. They make what we call the gold package, and then the English proficiency course, if you add that, then it's the platinum package. Okay, good. Now you will find these on the website here. You just go on to online.airlineselectionprogramme.com and you will find the packs here. The silver pack is advanced interview course and the CV and cover letter course. Okay, good. And I invite you to flash this code, which of course I need to remove my face if you are going to succeed. Here we go. We have a set of videos where we explain exactly how we go about things that will go into a lot more detail than what I've told you now, answer all your questions to understand if you're interested in one of our courses, what it is that you're getting into, how we go about it. These videos have been shot beautifully, so I hope that you like them. Flash this code, and I hope, and if it's insufficient, on the website you have a little chat window. You can always open the chat and ask us any questions, and we're very quick at answering. Of course, you can ask them now as well. Now we have this, what we call this part 1 and part 2 courses, and they are essentially they are airline specific courses. I'm going to go a little bit quicker on these, just to tell you that you see the main courses you saw before. They are at the bottom, and the part 1 and part 2 courses, they are airline specific, they are at the top. If you would buy, we're not the only ones doing these part 1 and part 2 courses. We're the only ones to do these main courses that are the foundation. If you get an airline specific course somewhere and you don't have the foundation, you are at great risk, let me tell you. So I really, really recommend that you consider our main courses that will really help you for any airline selection anywhere. Once you do our main courses, you can create your own airline-specific research, and you don't actually need a part 1 or part 2 course. We only created them because they will save you time. So we have 4 courses right now. They are Air France, British Airways, and Aer Lingus, and low-cost Irish Airline and Wizz Air. We are planning to add many more courses this year. And by the way, if you are in one of those airlines at the moment and you would like to contribute and help us with one of those new courses, which we want to create, Lufthansa Group, EasyJet, American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta Airlines, and any other major airlines. Oh yeah, we're going to want to do one on Qatar, Emirates, and Fly Dubai. Write in, please. We would love to get to know you and to meet you. Good. So now we have these airline packs as well, because if you're getting into one of those airlines, Air France, British Airways, or Aer Lingus, Wizz Air or low-cost Irish Airline, typically Ryanair, we have a pack for you that includes the right course for the job. So they will typically, for Air France, they will include the Air France part 1 and 2, advanced interview course, and the CV and cover letter course, and the same for the other airlines. Okay, so you can find them. I think it's going to show. Yeah, you just go here in airline packs, and you will find them here. And on the left of that, you will see the airline courses. Okay, good. Right. If you're French, and we have a specific page as well, you go on the site where it says English, you just go and hit French, and you have the how it works in French, because we've got a lot of clients that come from France and are going for Air France. Okay, very good. So there, I'm not going to detail the pack Air France today, and I think I'm done with my presentation. I'm going to now go back and finish answering all of your questions. I hope this was useful, and of course we're always here to answer more. Okay, let's go. Okay. Right. So I left it at thank you. Well, yeah, you're welcome. Are these courses useful, applicable for cadet schemes, or are they more focused on newly qualified direct entry? Excellent question. Yeah, these. I actually shot a video. You can go also on our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel. You type Airline Selection Program and you will find us. A lot of these videos give you of some of what's in the course, but of course, the course is the just advanced interview course is 13 hours long. Oh yeah, it's 13 hours long, but believe me, it's compact compared to everything you need to know. Imagine how much time you spend just studying the ATPL. We've done it as compact and as useful as we can. So in one of these YouTube videos, I explained that as a cadet, the the step you have to climb is even steeper than for an already licensed pilot, because of course your experience is quite shallow, your flight experience is quite shallow, and you cannot give examples of flights, for instance. So you have to work a lot harder. Also, a lot of cadet schemes, many cadet schemes, are a lot more competitive. In this market today, most airline selections at licensed level are not really limited by seats. They are limited by passing a certain threshold where the airline will hire you. Okay, it's a combination of both, but it's not really a competition as much as a cadet scheme. Cadet schemes are limited by number of seats. It's very competitive. You have to make a difference. And who's going to make a difference? Someone who already understands the job. It's as simple as that, really. So what you imagine of the life of an airline pilot is probably not enough. I would say that our courses are probably even more applicable and produce even more spectacular results if you are a cadet. And remember, as a cadet, there's a lot at stake. I mean, you're looking at entering a path that in many cases is free, if not fully, it's partially sponsored. And in any case, it's the guarantee of the job at the back. At the end of it, if you perform adequately, it's really a unique opportunity to save a lot of money, actually. So what we produce here, which is to take you to this level where you really can perform at your best, will get you likely a really, really good return on your investment. Okay. So they are basically advanced interview course in particular, also CV and cover letter course are really, they work at any experience level for any airline. I really insist on that, and it's been proven to be true. Sim preparation course is really only if you are already licensed, and English proficiency course, it will improve your English level, whatever the case. But I would suggest if you're a cadet, CV and cover letter course and advanced interview course, so the silver package, and if you're licensed, the gold package. I hope I answered your question here. How can we convince about our problem-solving decision-making competencies when we don't have experience, but we are not young? Well, let me tell you, when you are young, you already have problem-solving decision-making abilities, because life is about solving problems and making decisions. You've had those in your family. Talking about leadership, very often, even if you're a teenager, you've had to convince your parents, haven't you? And you've had to lead, you've had to make decisions at school with your friends. So there's always ways to come up with relevant examples. Now, in your case, you said about any irrelevant job, about problem-solving decision-making when we don't have experience, but we are not young. So what you're telling me is you already have a career and you're not completely young, and you are wondering how to convince about problem-solving decision-making. Well, find in your mind, think of a time where you had something difficult to figure out, and you need to break it down in a scenario that's easy to understand and easy to digest. I think it's really as simple as that. Try to think again of the analogy of where you were taking off from, where you were landing, where you were going. Again, what were you set to achieve? What happened, and how did you resolve it? Think of a difficult situation, one that was really tricky to solve, that was complicated, or one where you had to make a quick decision, or one where you had to convince someone. Is it unnecessary if we write about an unrelevant job is it unnecessary? If we write about an irrelevant job experience in our CV, is it worth mentioning any simulator experience? Also, I know this is mentioned in the paid course, but I would love to know if there is any specific strategy on building your CV for an airline selection. Right. So it's a lot here. An irrelevant job experience, you would basically not detail it too much, but you need to have something on your CV. So today I had a really good candidate who had some experience as an engineer, and there was a lot of text about each of his experiences as an engineer. So we just brought it down to the title and one line. Actually, I think he had 3 experiences in this career at this one company he worked for that he stayed 10 years. So I was like, title, 3 lines, that's it. They're not going to ask you things they don't know much technicality about. They just want to know roughly what you've done. That's it. Don't put any acronyms, don't put any gibberish that they're not able to understand. And if you're very young, most of what you've done will be useful because you need to show you actually need to fill that CV. If you're more experienced and you have a lot of experiences, then you're going to want to select. But you don't want to omit anything either because holes in dates will be seen as voluntary omissions. So the CV we need to be able to understand what you've done from high school up to now without holes. Okay. And if there's a hole, well, it's not a good idea to have a hole. If you have a hole of 6 months to a year, it's fine. You can always mention already, yes, I didn't mention it because of this or that, but I would rather not have to be on the back foot and them thinking that you're not honest and didn't disclose something. A tip on the CV, so the CV should be very clean, should go to what's essential, no gibberish. It should be no color or very little color because that actually hurts the eye. Just put yourself in the shoes of the person. Don't put yourself in your shoes and what you want to prove. Think of what they want to see. This is what I can tell you about the CV. And you want to have not too much about your present career. It shouldn't transpire that you are incredibly proud of your non-aviation related achievements. You want to show them there, but it shouldn't. Your incredible achievements should not transpire. This will lead the person to think, the recruiter to think that you're special. And they want someone smart but manageable. They want to figure out that you're special on their own. They don't want you to tell them too much. A little bit, yes, you need to sell yourself, sure. And in the letter, when you sell yourself, but after that, you always mention that you're here to learn. You see, you need to have this balance. Do you have any set date for the next group exercise? Yes, I think, okay, I need to go and look into my calendar here. The group exercise, I think next one is on the 13th, if I'm not mistaken, 13th of January. Yeah, 13th of January, 6 p.m., group exercise. Anybody can come. You don't need to be part of a course for this. What does it mean in the advanced interview if they ask you for an example? What is the most important thing about CRM? Is it my answers in the personality questionnaire show I'm less CRM oriented? I'm going to have to ask you to rephrase. I'm not understanding your question too much. The most important thing about CRM, well, CRM is about making the best of the team that you have, leading the team, knowing how to follow, getting information to circulate freely, making people feel valued, letting people know that they can always tell you what's going on, volunteering mistakes, being a good team player, and also being a leader when needed, not setting the right gradient if you're a captain so that people know that they can speak up to you. If you're a captain, being open to people challenging you and seeing that they do this because maybe they've seen something that you've not. Recognizing when you're making a series of decisions that don't seem to be efficient, that something may be wrong with you on that day, that maybe you're fatigued, or maybe you're not at your best. It's about being situationally aware, knowing what's going on around you, and knowing yourself. Yeah, the CRM is a very wide concept. Is it better to fly real IFR small planes or A320 Boeing 737 simulators to keep our flight level and show our motivation? Okay, it's very simple here, this question. Very, very good question. After you left flight school, forget about small planes. Okay, fly them only to maintain your SCP and your MEP. So you have to do a certain number of hours a year, or you have to do an exam every year. Do this so that you don't lose it on your license. But then invest in sim time, such as what we've put together in the sim preparation package. The 5 hours that we've put in the package is, in fact, it's a continuation training. It's set to finish your training after the MCC, so that you know how the techniques that work to succeed at an airline assessment, which is very, very, very different to what you were subject to at your MCC exam. So invest in such sessions. Do one a month, one every 2 months at the very minimum, so that you don't get rusty. You come out of flight school, you may be the best student at flight school, flying instruments, your skills will just rust. And that's because you don't have much depth. You have depth on small planes now. You're ready to become an instructor almost, but you don't on large planes. So you have to work on that. Yeah, someone's commenting quite rightly, if for Eurowings it's on the DA42, of course, then for that specific airline, you're going to want to practice on a DA42 sim. And then you want to know everything about that airplane on which you're supposed to be qualified, or on which you're going to have your assessment, for sure, because it's not a complex plane. So I know that for Eurowings, you need to be really good on the Garmin 1000. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, another comment. Pitch thrust settings for the simulator assessment. This depend on aircraft mass. How can we know this in advance? No, they don't depend on mass. Pitch thrust settings don't depend on mass. The resulting speed will vary. That's all. That's why it's magical. The 5 key pitch settings, we tell you, they work at any mass. The thrust may change a bit if the airplane's heavy, but very, very little. It's pretty much always the same. The speed will vary. The resulting speed will vary. Okay, I've got another question. You see, this sort of stuff you really need to know what I just said. That's why it's all in the SPC, and I really want to know this. My question, so someone else has a question. My question is, what type of attitude recruiters at Cathay Pacific may want to see in a low-hour candidate for direct entry FO coming from a low cost? Okay, so I think that's such a good question. So you're going for a major airline and you're coming from a low-cost airline. So first of all, you want to tell them that you really loved working for a low-cost airline, that it gave you first of all, it gave you access to this job and this career. It gave you a fantastic opportunity to learn an operation and to fly a complex airplane. You're looking forward to working with a more complex airline that has been around for longer and that has a long history and has to teach you a lot more. You're looking forward to long haul, which is a lot more complicated than people think compared to short haul. And first of all, because of the type of planes, they are heavier and so they cannot land everywhere. Also because you're going to cross so many boundaries, and each country has different regulations, and you're going to get to learn the whole world with all of its complexity, which you probably don't in a low-cost carrier at this point. There are some exceptions, such as Fly Dubai, for instance, where you do very complex operations already. But for those who are based in Europe, it's not the case. Operations in Europe remain fairly easy. You can pretty much land everywhere and almost at any time. And the attitude you're gonna want to have is one of you want to tell them that you always dreamt of working for a legacy carrier. You want to tell them that you also want to get involved. You can tell them that when you will join, you will welcome the seat that you will be in, and you know you will be there for quite a while, and that you're going to first want to learn for the time that it will take, And then come a point, if there's an opportunity to get involved, what's great in a larger airline like this is that you can be involved in really interesting jobs, and that you will be open to basically contribute in whatever way they can offer. In fact, this is true of low-cost airlines as well, but it's just a little bit more, I would say, it's just a simpler operation. Low-cost operations are it's point to point. There's no connecting flights, which is where the complexity comes in. On top of the mix of fleets, there's much more of a mix of fleet in a major airline like Cathay, even though they do mostly long haul. There's much more of a mix of fleet now at Cathay as well. There's a lot of threats because Hong Kong is a threat in itself. So they are going to want to see that you're someone who's very SOP oriented, who does good threat-based briefings, someone who works hard on SOPs. Of course, you know that SOPs have limits, and so you will want to know this as well. But so they're going to want to verify as well that if your captain is making a decision that is not safe, that you will be able to verbalize it. That's very important. That's it. And that you're someone relatable and amicable, and that they will work with well. Is it a problem if one is a more shy person, and what do I have to look at in terms of selling myself? That's a good question. Now, if you are shy, first of all, you have every right to be. And I would say that I often say that you can only progress where there is a big area of progress that's possible. If you know that you're shy, the first thing I would say is I would really encourage you to work on it. If you're shy, the risk is that you're not going to verbalize a problem when there is one on the flight deck. You are going to be shy to speak up to a senior captain who's making a mistake, and they do make mistakes because they are human, and also they're in a position of power, which gets them sometimes to abuse this power. If you're an experienced pilot watching this right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're shy, it will, from purely selection point of view, it will hurt your chances at the group exercise, because if you're, the group exercise, if it lasts 20 minutes, you need to speak for 5 minutes. You need to speak your 25% of the time if it's 4 of you. Okay, so you cannot let the others do everything. Otherwise, you're going to be noticed for being absent. And at the final interview, it will also show. It will also show in the examples that you pick, because if you're shy to basically fight back if there's something that you don't agree with, then you are not going to have examples. It will show at the personality questionnaire, and then they're going to ask you, if your personality questionnaire gets you as shy, they're going to ask you questions on times where you basically put your foot down and were able to influence others. And if you have no examples, it's going to be a problem. So if this is you here, then I would really, really recommend that you work on it. Work on it hard and get out of your comfort zone as much as possible. When you go to the supermarket, speak with the lady at the till, try and say hi to people you don't know, trying to engage conversation with strangers. Like the supermarket's a great place to do that. Engage in conversation with people in the queue, and you will see after 20 days of that, it takes 21 days to build a habit, and I believe this is very true for this kind of situation. And you need to think clearly, what is it? This is a threat for you. Really, it is. What is it that you want more? To remain shy like this, which you have every right to, or to get your dream job and get through at the first attempt? And you really, really want to think this through, because and it's not just for shyness. There are other personality traits that we find during the personality assessment that could be a problem. If this happens, you really need to act upon it, because people will tend to act upon it when after a failure, after 1 or 2 failures, and then they go, what do I need to change? And then if the desire to succeed is bigger than this thing that this personality trait that they are familiar with, that they're comfortable with, then if the stakes are big enough, they will change. So why not change now? Okay, that's what I can recommend. And we have so many examples of people just like you who were shy and who we told them exactly that, and they now some of them are at major airlines, and others have not had their attempt at a major airline, but they entered a really, really good low-cost airline. So, but you need to work on it. Are low-cost hiring more pilots, and can we expect a vast amount of accepted cadets in the next few years for finance programs? I think that the market cycle will not. I don't think that the market cycle will stay the way it is forever. I think one day the party is going to be over, and experts will tell you that there's a pilot shortage coming. I would like to see when it's actually going to come. When we're in it, then I would have been proven wrong. But in my home country, in France, the doors are slowly closing on our home major airline. They're still recruiting, but less, which means that low-cost airlines, unless they're still growing fast, will have less people leaving for major airlines, so they will have less seats to fill, which means that the airlines, the second tier low-cost airlines, will have less people leaving, so they will have less seats to fill. So, you know, trees don't climb to the sky. So I think that I don't think the party is going to stop just yet, but I don't think we're going to remain in this sort of incredible market situation where it was so easy to get hired just last year and maybe since the end of 2022. So the time to succeed is now. That's what I'm telling people at the moment. Not just that, also, if you get into an airline now, you will get in a decent position in the seniority list, and you will see how important that is in the future for the quality of your life. And some low costs are not hiring more pilots at the moment. Ryanair is putting recruitment, is slowing down recruitment a lot because of issues with plane orders. Wizz Air had engine issues. So there's also how quickly the market would like to grow, but how quickly can planes be produced? There's the problems with Boeing and all of that. So, you know, and let's not forget that the geopolitical situation is not looking so great. So anything could happen. Looking at market cycles, you had the war in the Gulf, 1991 to 1994. 10 years later, September 11. 7 years later, the subprime crisis. And in 2020, we had, which that one was really long. And then in 2020, we had the COVID. So now in 2024, but I wouldn't say that everything's healthy. It's not as healthy as it looks. That's my opinion. With 1 month left until I get an in-person assessment, is it a good strategy to focus on the gold package preparation instead of technical preparation on the type and ATPL? How should one balance these two, technical versus, well, okay, if you've got 1 month to go, it will depend how much you've already worked on your technical. Okay, you should just stagger them so that your brain can focus. So do a little bit of interview, a little bit of tech, a little bit of interview, a little bit of tech, a little bit of advanced interview course, a little bit of tech. You in a selection, you need to be good or better everywhere. So you need to grow all of this at the same time, knowing though that preparing for selections takes a bit of time. The more you can mature the concepts, the better. I've seen some of our clients, they go through the course a bit too fast and they haven't memorized some of the concepts well enough. Although I put it on some slides, memorize this, know this by heart. And there's not many slides like this. There are like 4 slides like this. And people don't memorize it well enough. When you memorize it, it means I ask you at any time, I ask you, tell me about this concept. It should come out. You shouldn't have your eyes look into your brain to find it. It should come straight to the recruiter. That's when you know that you've assimilated it. So it takes a bit of time to get there. It takes a bit of time to do the experience sheet. I would stagger things. And I don't know how you learn as well. Everybody learns in a different way. So, Lufthansa froze hiring for some of its subsidiaries in September this year. You see, I've been saying that things would slow down since February. But anyway, good. So I hope that you had a good time this evening. I certainly had. I loved your questions. It was one of our best question and answer sessions today. So thank you for coming. Unless you have another question come in really soon, I'm going to close this. It was a pleasure to have you. Such a good group. I really enjoyed it. et merci. De rien. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, it was good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, you're so nice, everybody. Thanks. Okay, bye-bye. I'm going to close this now, and goodbye, everyone.